What's up, lads? You're with Budget Monk, and yeah, it's time for another little cheeky quick update. There she is, boys. There she is. Isn't it beautiful? That Roman color always sort of diminishing any other shade of, well, red or burgundy. I've always noticed that. Like Great Britain, if they're adjacent to each other, they look so sort of less vibrant. The same goes for England. But regardless, my timeline's bugged out, by the way. So we did, starting as Mentor, we did actually form Austria, and then Croatia, and then England, and then Sardinia, Piedmont, Italy, and now Rome. But as you can see, Austria looks Croatian, and Croatia looks English for some reason in terms of color. So hopefully that fixes itself before the end of the game for my timeline purposes, but we'll see if that's the case. It may not. There is one more tag switch that I intend to do, and that is to unite the Holy Roman Empire. So there's something a little bit interesting going on out here. I'll show you guys in a second. But we did also PU Russia, guys. We PU'd them. I was stressing really badly, really badly, because we've been sabotaging ever since I became the rightful and eternal emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. I was sabotaging my heirs and actually disinheriting them in order to fall, but we would not lose emperorship after taking this, right, to Russian dynasty, and that's exactly what happened. And it worked fairly well, but the problem is that this Russian ruler, he had a queen, which actually less likely to die, and she lived until 71 years old, guys. 71, just absolutely ancient. I think actually maybe it was older than that. I remember seeing 71, but she might have died 72, 73, something like that. But yeah, obviously Russia not required to form Rome or anything like that, but still, I was very concerned that if we didn't have a window then, it was getting really late. As far as coalitions are concerned, when I abandoned Russia, who had like half the world's force limits when he wasn't a subject, it was insane. We actually started getting coalitions. You can see I have allied Ming. Now, interestingly, Ming's mandate is pathetic, and they're looking pretty weak, pretty damn weak, this game. So that has it kind of aids us in the sense that dealing with Ming would be easier, I suppose. But also, it's really nice if you can get that alliance, typically, to help you dissuade coalitions. And in this case, they're not serving that strong of a purpose doing that, dissuading the coalitions. However, once we actually fought a very hard war to keep the truces down and separate, in fact fractured, over a huge hug box here, and also PU'd Russia simultaneously, we have had zero coalition issues ever since then. For a good 20 years, making rapid gains all over the place. West Africa, Arabia, tag eliminations all over the show. Hormuz, West Africans tag eliminating them, and we're going to continue doing just that. My next war is Songhai. So yeah, almost, obviously probably not the case if we let all of our truces come up, but seemingly the whole world is afraid of myself and my diplomacy. I've allied 2 Coptics here just for anti-coalition purposes, and Ethiopia in particular, I want to be able to walk through his country consistently using the relation slot there. I don't want him to join the coalition. At one stage they did have 50 AE, no longer the case, as he's been my ally for a long time. And yeah, that's because, of course, we are pre-imperialism, guys, so we're using Deus Vult, and I really like the idea of, walking around his country. English colonies from the personal union that we have annexed allow us to, for example, Deus Vult Kilwa. So I'm going to be doing that, and we'll be expanding into East Africa here. So go from Kilwa into this nation, hopefully tag eliminate them. We literally just formed Rome. These were the Spanish provinces required to form Rome, the last war. It was the Ottomans before then. And I know that we have the autonomy issue opening and closing the game here, but my force limit is just under 1,000 regiments, guys. Which means if our manpower can sustain it, it's hard. It's really, really hard to ramp up, but I'm trying my best. Basically, I'm hiring generals and I'm going to slacken them, and I'm working my way up to 1 million troops, which is going to be the military hegemon. So financially, we should be able to support it. I got an amazing event which gives you 3 innovative, but it costs just an absolute crap load of money, and that put us into debt a little bit here, but that's okay. It costed me like 10k, because it's relative to your affluence. But we're near 100 inno, which is huge for the run. So I will actually depend about 100 years from now to have 100 inno to actually reach the culture conversion cap when we lose this here, the parliament. If I choose to lose it, and by lose it I mean take humanist. And the reason we would take humanist is so this will be a colonizer, and that would be humanist. It is to get rid of separatism. So I have speculated that we're going to be so early at the rate that I'm conquering. You can see we're so far pushed out all over the place with our 70 CCR. We're operating on 70 CCR. So if we are early enough at expanding, then obviously we would not rely on humanist, and I could keep this, which would be good. So that's something to think about, but regardless, Inno benefits us in the meantime. It's just a brilliant modifier, and I do want 100. Now, I would suggest, I think just from the 0.005, I would actually tick up to 100, considering the kind of time frame we're talking about. But we should get at least 1 Inno, a couple Inno events in between then and now, a proper late game. So that's doing superbly. Coptic, we've enforced religion on Russia, and sadly, guys, he has actually gone humanist. So, absolutely trolled. Russia is geared to take religious, but he didn't do it. The good news is that normally when we enforce on Russia like this, he is just suffering egregious unrest. It's been years now, and he is starting to experience some unrest, it seems, unfortunately. That might be war exhaustion related or something, I'm not sure. Yeah, it seems that it is, if you look at that modifier there. But he was stable due to humanist. That's what I was going to say. That's the good news. The bad news is, of course, he plugs away with only 1 missionary, and it also is very slow. So we're about to unlock cathedrals, and if I have the money, I'm going to slam cathedrals within his country to speed up the rate at which he converts. It will have a big difference, right? Particularly on high-dev provinces. But also, let's be honest, I'll probably have to help him out, so that's what we do. We build cathedrals in every province that I need to convert. Speaking of which, conversions. I have been actually, as you can see here, I've been converting New World nations at this rate, which do not actually convert themselves due to the colonial tradition. You can see there where they have heretic and heathen provinces do not give any penalty whatsoever. The reason we love to enforce on them is so that the colonies are Coptic. So these are free Coptic provinces. Well, that's weird. That's not Coptic through an event or something changed it, but I assure you the colonies that they make are Coptic as a rule. So probably, I would say maybe 50 provinces. Newfoundland is going ham up here. 50 provinces or more have probably been Coptic through that method, and that, of course, isn't using our missionaries. Very valuable. Trust me, in a game like this, every single province adds up, and Coptic has long been the largest religion in the game. Almost 1/3 of the world has been Coptic, so it's been less than 50 years, I believe, or right about 50 years, that Coptic has really existed anything more substantially than a tiny enclave here and East Africa, but it has risen to the largest in the world, and I think at this rate, and with what I have planned, we're going to have little religious issues. If we have issues, it's going to come down to something else. Yeah, I've been dumping in there because that's just an area in which we can vary. You can see 4 per month, 4 months. So that's 7 times 4, right? Or times 3. Yeah. So 4 months fit into a year 3 times, right? 8 and 12. So that's 3 times 7, which is 21. So we do about 21 provinces a year as long as we're doing these 4s, which is really nice. And it won't be too long before we abandon these colonial nations. So I'm converting them while I can, as the harder provinces to convert, because the Muslims have -2 to converting. If you can see Sunni down the red modifier down the bottom, these benefit more from the cathedrals, right? As there's diminishing returns. So if we put a cathedral in one of these provinces, when our religious missionary strength is so high, we need stability, by the way, because I can get +1, 0.5 per stab, but I've just been lacking the admin. We had a 0 in our admin for the longest time, and thankfully we got a 3 now, which is a lot better. But we did cope due to our insane CCR, but I'm looking forward to actually generating some more. Regardless, we're going to convert the Sunni provinces. Speaking of Sunni provinces, you can see that I have added everything to the empire, guys, because when you form Rome, you actually leave the empire and you occupy all of the stuff as an outside member. If you look over the decision, it will tell you that all provinces leave the empire. Well, I added everything back, and we have spawned in Astorius here. And Astorius, every one of the nations I released at least have religious ideas, but Astorius has a missionary, if you can see, and missionary strength. So, superb converter with 3 missionaries and extra strength, but he also has a colonist. So my plan is to actually feed him into all of North Africa to convert all of North Africa. But then he will also colonize West Africa and bridge his way down to West Africa here, where I'm going to have him convert this as well for me over time. And upon unifying the empire, he will, of course, join for free. He will, we will annex him. I did the same thing with Trebizond. Now, Trebizond is actually the weakest out of all of the nations I released, but there aren't that many tags available, and due to proximity and the fact that I know he takes religious, I took that. So he's going to convert some of this. And lo and behold, guys, I'm actually going to make a unique video on my channel over the subject matter. We have Asians inside of the empire. So tell me in the comments if you want me to make a video associated with that. I'll be working on it nonetheless, but I'd be interested to see your guys' thoughts. Are you intrigued? So I have Najd, which I just enforced Coptic on and released inside of the Empire, and Sind as well. So Sind has religious +1 missionary, 2 missionary strength. Beautiful. Najd has, of course, 2 missionaries and missionary strength with religious ideas as well. So I suspect if we keep some combination of these 4, but mostly these 3 are elite converters, and then I'll use Trebizond just for a little bit additional here. Like I've been feeding these guys some cores so we're not as overextended. I suspect with the 7th missionary that we have from being Coptic, and we're in a strong position, I suspect at this rate that the religious game will be kind of trivialized as the game goes on. I hope so. And I think, oh yeah, so lastly, of course, we've got the culture, guys. The culture. We are now Roman. So I did unfortunately hit the cap, the Diplo cap, for about 6 months, and it was absolute misery and suffering. And of course, the whole point is we can't Diplo bank, guys. We cannot put Diplo in here and then cancel it. So by doing it as the lost culture of Rome, if we were converting anything, it would be converted to Piedmontese and not Roman. And I had nothing productive to do with my Diplo at all. This was too far ahead of time. It would have just been throwing them into the drain, ticking up. I did do some developing, but you have to keep in mind, if I dev to where I'm at 950 Diplo, I would rather be at 999 Diplo and having wasted 41 points, as long as I'm at 999 when I need the Diplo. You understand? So it's the most efficient way to actually, quote-unquote, waste the points is by not spending them at all, which is disgusting. And developing, I assure you, I did do a little bit, but it doesn't benefit us very much. Regardless, now we are Roman, we can start converting. So this is the one variable which is not great compared to the other runs, the Bohemian runs and so on. The religious game is on point. Our size and strength is just unparalleled. We're huge. But the culture, the hardest variable, is slightly behind. Now, it's slightly behind because we're ahead in other ways, but the issue, though, is that I have 60 culture conversion cost reduction and then, 9.4 point cost reduction. That is what applies to culture. So even now, I'm not at the cap because in our other game we would have had Germany and Hussite. That's 30%, which puts us over the cap. You can see the modifiers here. So the most important thing to do is to spread with adjacency, which has an additional 25, but you can see it is expensive. However, my saving grace and what gives me some optimism is that we are focusing our Diplo for the whole game because my CCR trivializes the admin cost, and we focused our admin in my other game. Also, in my other game, I deploy annex my subjects. We will do the only nation we have to deploy annex is Russia. I'm going to be focusing my deploy the entire game, and granted, it will be grim, but of course, once we reach the Enlightenment, we're at the culture conversion cap, and it's at that stage. There will still be a window where I'm focusing my diplo for 25, 30 years. We've got a 5 into a 6, as you can see, and I'm optimistic that we can catch up, guys. I mean, I have to be. It's a close variable. I don't know if we'll get it. It's obviously the hardest variable. I'm doing my damnedest, and we will see. We will see. So I wanted to give you guys an update. It's going to be an absolute slogfest. It's going to be an absolute grind. But we're actually further ahead than like any other run I've ever done. It's absurd, guys. I can now Deus Vault Chug. This is pre-imperialism. I can Deus Vault Chug, which would allow me to Deus Vault Oriat and even Ming themselves if we wanted to. We could commence the Ming Wars. And Ming is looking super weak. He's normally caught up in tech and everything. I mean, we could smash him. So it's very, very exciting. I will say that we still haven't moved our capital to a colonial region, and I cannot move my capital to a colonial region until I unify the Holy Roman Empire, because, well, you can't move your capital outside of the empire. So it basically means that we're going to be slow in the New World, but I think we're so ahead in other variables that that's going to be just fine. Yeah, really interesting stuff. It was glorious forming Rome on stream, and that's it, guys. I'm going to be working on another video talking about the Empire shenanigans because I think it's really, really interesting, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, this update. Just a casual, chill one, and I hope to see you live, or I hope to see you in another video. See you next time.